Hello, my name is Peter Parfitt and welcome to part 4, the final part of my little series about building some side tables. And you'll be seeing how we finish off this table, which has a handy drawer just right for remote controls. You may wish then to take the design a little further yourself, and besides the drawer also perhaps put in a shelf here for magazines and maybe even a bottom shelf for newspapers. Let's get cracking. Now for my sanding, I'm starting with 120 grit Rubin, which is one of the more popular sanding discs from Festool. But I'm finishing off with Brilliant 2. And I must say I'd forgotten just how good this is. I'd had one or two sheets free when I bought the Rotex sander, but this is absolutely lovely. So I'm going to continue to finish with Brilliant 2. I think it's lovely. Very good. Using these quick clamps is a great advantage because you can swap pieces of wood over quickly, and it's easy to put a new piece in and get cracking with the sander. Well, I've done the final bit of sanding, we've got all the joints done, and we're ready to do the gluing, and I've got my special dominoes all ready to go. Got the clamps, got the glue. I'm not going to bore you by showing you the whole process, I'm just going to get on and do it. That's it. It's all clamped up. This strap clamp is really good. It's made by Bessie. I've got several of these. All my clamps are made by Bessie, so they work really well. And that will now just sit and dry for a couple of hours. Perfectly square, of course. Typical Festool. You know, nothing to worry about there. So all I've got to do now is just a final little touch up with a bit of very fine sandpaper. Put some Osmo Poly-X on it, put the top on, and it's done. Now, Osmo's instructions say you can just apply it by brush, or you can apply it by cloth. I like to use a combination of the two, because the brush gets the product onto the surface, and in a controllable quantity, and then the cloth is used really to then finish the job off. Now the way I use the cloth is I go across the grain to start with. That ensures that every part of the grain is filled with the Osmo. And then I finish off by going with the grain. Well, it's almost finished. I've got the top on and it's starting to look really nice. The whole thing has had one coat of Osmo Poly-X, and I'm going to give it a very quick buff with this Scotch-Brite on my Rotex 90. This is in the rotary position, so it's going to go in big circles. And after that I'll put one more coat of Poly-X and let it dry overnight, and it'll be ready to use tomorrow. I've got the speed down fairly low. I'm just going to keep this moving. The purpose of this is just to take any little nibs off, which a bit of dust that may have dried onto the surface in the workshop overnight. That feels really super. So I'm going to put the second coat of Poly-X on now, sparingly, and then tomorrow this will be in use. Not bad, eh? But it's time for us to join the drawer runners onto the side rails now, and I'm going to do this using a bit of glue and 3 screws on each. And so it will go something like this, and there'll be one on the corresponding side, and the drawer will run there. So you don't need very much glue for this process, just a small amount, and I'm just going to give it a very quick rub along there just to spread it a little bit. And what you've got to do though is make sure you stick this in the correct position on the side rail, because the last thing you want to do is to put sticky glue on the smart outside of your piece of woodwork. So what I've done is it's lined up with that bottom edge, lined up there, and I'll start by putting a screw in the centre. There we go. And that's the first one done. Front of the drawer will be here. We're ready to glue up this table, and this is the first of our tables which has a drawer. And this is where we have to now check the orientation marks that we put at the top of the legs. And I've lined them up as they would be. And if I open them out now, you'll see that the outer two legs have no domino holes in them. That is because that it is between those pair of legs at the top here where our drawer fits. That means our long sides with the drawer runners go between here and between here. And we want to first of all assemble these two long sides with the drawer runner pieces added. We do that first because then when we bring those two assemblies together we have a rear rail which has normal domino holes in it, but at the front we will have our special thin piece which fits under the drawer to stiffen it at the front. Now when you're doing this sort of gluing, it's quite useful to have a glue stick or whatever that fits down inside the domino slots. And I have a whole bunch of little lollipop sticks which I keep especially for this purpose. So there we go. Just have to make sure we get the orientation correct. That's the back one. Domino in. Remember that these dominoes have the mitre on them, and I'm just going to give that a little tap, partly in, and then the other side of the domino will match up with the one that comes in from here. So the two 45-degree angles will be mating each other. Good. There's that. Now the dominoes that go at this end, where the drawer is going to go, of course are not going to mate up with an opposing domino going from the other direction. So for these, we're just going to use the ordinary dominoes which go in just the same way. That's that one in place. Now what's nice about this method of joinery using dominoes is that they're pretty accurate. In my experience, they're far more accurate than using biscuit jointing. And once they've been clamped up tight, they tend to stay there, so you can release the clamps quite early. Well, it's the two long sides done, and I'm just putting some glue in now, and I've put a little bit of glue in here for the baby domino, which is going in at the front. I need another pair of these dominoes with the mitre, and remember which way the mitre goes. Right, so outside bottom there, so this one's going to go here like so. And then we've got the other side of this to do. This is the one that goes here, like so. Hopefully it should all fit, like so. Hopefully that's perfect. Yeah, note I've put this strap clamp on at the bottom here. The reason for that is, of course, that the only support we've got at the front is at this lower edge here, and what we don't want to do is to make the front legs splay out. So we've got that in, I think, the perfect place. That's it, yeah, spot on for scale. Well, that's it. The glue's gone off quite nicely overnight. In retrospect, I think if I were to do this again, I would have put a cross piece here, a thin cross piece here, dominoed into the legs in order to stiffen it up even further. Because as it stands, there's a little bit more movement in those legs than I would wish. Now, for me, I'm quite content because I'm going to put a top on here, and when the top is secured to this base, then that problem will virtually disappear. Right, we've got the first coat of Poly-X on the main frame. I'd already put a coat of Poly-X on the top, and I've joined the top on. Now, I've just used a very simple technique of using some of these brackets here, which are very thin, made of thin steel, and I've used those to screw the top on. One could use something a little more elegant if you felt it was important. The next stage is the drawer. I've decided to go for a very simple drawer design. This drawer is not going to come under any great stress, and so I'm going to use domino joints between the front of the drawer and the sides. And I think with modern glues that joint will be perfectly strong enough. And for this simple little project there's no need to go to the elaborate efforts to put in dovetail joints. But you could do that if you wished. So I'm using a pair of dominoes on each side. They're 5mm dominoes. They're 30mm long, so they go into each side by 15mm. And that will be plenty strong enough. Everyone is allowed to make one bishop on every project, I think. My bishop with this project is that the little cross rail which I put in here, which goes underneath the drawer, should have had a cutout. But, Festool to the rescue, I've put my Rotex 90 in rotary motion. I've got some 80 grit granite, and I'm going to be able to cut as deep a recess here as I want, and it'll take me no time at all. Well, the drawer is finished. I've given it a light sand. I'll give it a coat of Poly-X shortly. But there are two things I want to do to this drawer. The first is I want the drawer to remain shut if the table's being moved. I don't want it to fall open. And the other thing is I do not want the drawer to come all the way out and end up on the floor, perhaps if a child pulls at it or if the table gets knocked. In order to stop the drawer going all the way out, I've cut a small piece of wood here which I'm going to attach to the back of the drawer. Now this has to be screwed in, not glued, because you might want to remove the drawer. I have here a magnet. It's a little barrel magnet. Comes from a company called Bunting Magnetics, and they're a UK company. They have an internet presence and you can buy stuff from them. And I'm going to insert that magnet into the back of the drawer, like so. It'll be a little hole drilled out, a 10mm hole, push that in. And then opposing it, screwed into the back here, just an ordinary screw. We've got the drawer stop in place, and we've also got the little magnet at the back to stop that drawer from falling out accidentally. If you want to adjust the strength of the magnet, remember the screw that's screwed into the back of the frame here on the inside. If you screw that screw in or out, that will alter the degree of binding between the magnet and the screw itself, and that then in itself will affect just how tightly that drawer is held in place. All it needs now is the second coat of Osmo Poly-X, and it's then ready to go. Thank you very much for watching this mini-series on building these tables. It's been great fun making it. I hope now you see just how easy it is to make things like these side tables using the Festool Domino. I also hope that you've seen some interesting finishes and some other bits and pieces that you might want to utilise in other projects. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.